The wind whipped through the roadside trees, hurling leaves across the empty stretch of highway. Ellie tightened her jacket around her as she jogged along the cracked asphalt, clutching a bag of tools. The roar of a distressed engine broke the stillness ahead, and as she rounded a bend, the sight of a sleek black car, hazard lights blinking, greeted her. A man in a crisp navy suit stood beside the vehicle, his phone pressed to his ear. He was pacing in frustrated circles, muttering under his breath. Of all days, no, I don't want excuses. The meeting starts in 30 minutes. Figure it out. His voice cut through the air, sharp and commanding. Ellie hesitated, scanning the scene. The man's polished shoes were far too clean for someone accustomed to roadside repairs, and his tie was loosened just enough to suggest desperation. She adjusted her tool bag strap and approached cautiously. "Hey," she called, her voice clear over the wind. "Need help?" The man turned sharply, his piercing blue eyes narrowing as they fell on her. For a moment, he seemed ready to dismiss her, but then his gaze shifted to the battered bag slung over her shoulder. "Unless you're a mechanic, no offense, but actually, I am," Ellie interrupted, flashing him a confident grin. "Well, sort of. I work at a garage in town. Looks like your engine's giving you trouble. Mind if I take a look?" The man hesitated. He glanced at his watch, then back at Ellie. "Fine. Just, please, if you can get it running in the next 20 minutes, I'll pay you whatever you want." Ellie smirked, dropping to her knees beside the car. "Let's see what we're dealing with first." Ellie popped the hood, and a puff of steam billowed out, making her cough. She waved it away, peering into the tangle of components. The engine looked like it belonged to a spaceship, with wires and panels she hadn't seen often, but nothing she couldn't handle. She glanced up at the man, who was pacing again and mumbling something about contracts and boardrooms. "Nice car," she said, letting her voice cut through his muttering. "But I'm guessing you haven't had it serviced in a while. Is that important right now?" He snapped, then sighed heavily. "Sorry. This meeting is critical. My entire year rides on this presentation." Ellie chuckled, grabbing a wrench from her bag. "Relax. We'll get you there. What's the worst that could happen? They start without you." His sharp glare softened slightly, as if her calm demeanor was contagious. "Let's just say that's not an option. My name's Logan, by the way. Logan Price." She nodded, more focused on tightening a loose belt she'd spotted. "Ellie, nice to meet you, Logan." She paused, wiping her hands on a rag. "Though I'd prefer to meet under less stressful circumstances." Logan gave a short, humorless laugh. "Agreed." Ellie worked quickly, her hands moving with practiced ease. The engine was overheating, and she found a leak in one of the hoses. She rummaged through her bag, pulling out duct tape and a small bottle of sealant. "This'll hold long enough to get you where you're going," she said, applying the makeshift fix. "But you'll need to see a real mechanic soon to replace the hose." Logan checked his watch again. "Will it run?" "Try it," she said, stepping back. He slid into the driver's seat and turned the key. The engine sputtered, coughed, then roared to life. Logan's shoulders visibly relaxed, and he let out a breath. "You're a lifesaver," Ellie grinned. "Just doing my job? Or part of it anyway." Logan stepped out, pulling a wallet from his pocket. "How much do I owe you?" Ellie shook her head. "Don't worry about it. You were in a bind. Consider it a favor." His brows furrowed. "A favor? You just saved me from losing a multimillion-dollar deal. I can't let you walk away with nothing." "Multimillion?" Ellie raised an eyebrow, but she waved a hand dismissively. "Seriously, it's fine. Good luck with your meeting." Before Logan could argue further, Ellie slung her bag over her shoulder and walked back down the road, disappearing around the bend. Logan arrived at his meeting just in time, sealing the deal with his investors. But even as the celebratory handshakes and congratulations filled the room, his mind kept wandering back to the girl with the confident smile and grease-streaked hands. The next morning, he made a decision. Ellie had helped him without expecting anything in return, but he wasn't the kind of man to let kindness go unrewarded. Ellie was back at the garage, under the hood of an old pickup truck, when the low hum of an engine caught her attention. She glanced up to see a black luxury SUV pull into the lot. Her boss, Hank, stood straighter, wiping his hands on a rag. "Ellie," he called. "Looks like you've got a visitor." Logan stepped out of the SUV, his polished shoes clicking against the concrete. He looked entirely out of place among the grease and tools, but his expression was warm. "You again?" Ellie said, smirking. "Car break down already?" Logan laughed. "No, the car's fine, thanks to you. I'm here for something else." Before she could respond, he gestured toward the SUV. A man in a tailored suit emerged, carrying a sleek leather briefcase. "This is my lawyer," Logan said. "And he's here because I owe you something." Ellie blinked, confused. "Your lawyer? For what?" Logan smiled. "For changing my life yesterday. And now I'd like to change yours." Ellie squinted, unsure if she had heard him correctly. "Change my life?" she repeated. "Listen, Mr. Price." "Logan," he corrected gently. "Logan," she said, wiping her hands on a rag. "I just fixed a hose and tightened a belt. That's hardly life-changing." Logan chuckled, shaking his head. "You don't understand. If you hadn't stopped to help me, I would have missed a meeting that secured funding for a project I've been working on for 2 years. And that project is worth millions. So, yes, what you did was life-changing." Ellie shifted uncomfortably, unused to this level of attention. "Okay, well, I'm glad I could help, but I didn't do it for a reward. I'm not that kind of person." Logan's lawyer, a tall, serious-looking man, stepped forward and opened the briefcase. Inside was a stack of documents and a check. "Regardless of your intentions," Logan said, "I want to make sure your kindness doesn't go unnoticed. This is a check for $50,000. Consider it a thank you." Ellie's mouth fell open. $50,000? Are you serious? Completely. She stared at the check, her heart racing. That's too much. I can't accept that." Logan smiled, his tone firm but kind. "You can. And you will. But that's not all." "Not all," Ellie echoed, feeling like she was in some kind of surreal dream. Logan gestured to the documents. "I did some digging. You're talented, hardworking, and from what I hear, you've been keeping this garage afloat almost single-handedly. I also found out it's been struggling financially." Ellie's stomach twisted. "How do you know about that?" Logan shrugged. "I have resources. And when someone like you goes out of their way to help a stranger, I believe it's worth investing in them." He pointed to the papers. "These are partnership agreements. I want to buy into this garage and make you part owner. You'll have access to more tools, better equipment, and the freedom to take on bigger projects." Ellie took a step back, her hands shaking. "This is insane. You don't even know me." Logan tilted his head, his expression softening. "I know enough. I know you could have kept walking yesterday. You could have charged me a fortune knowing I was desperate. But you didn't. You chose to help, no strings attached. The world needs more people like you, and I want to see you succeed." Ellie's mind raced. Her whole life had been a series of uphill battles, struggling to keep the garage open, barely scraping by. And now, out of nowhere, this man was offering her a way out, a chance to breathe. She swallowed hard, tears threatening to spill. "Why are you doing this?" Logan smiled. "Because someone once did the same for me when I was at rock bottom. Now, I'm paying it forward." Over the next few weeks, Ellie's life transformed. The garage underwent renovations, new tools and equipment arrived, and customers started pouring in thanks to Logan's connections. Ellie found herself busier than ever, but for the first time, she didn't feel overwhelmed. She felt empowered. One evening, as she locked up the garage, Logan pulled up in his car. He stepped out, leaning casually against the door. "How's the new setup treating you?" he asked. Ellie smiled. "It's incredible. I still can't believe this is real." Logan nodded. "You deserve it." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment before Ellie turned to him. "Why didn't you just write me a check and move on? Why go through all this trouble?" Logan's eyes met hers, his expression sincere. "Because you didn't just fix my car, Ellie. You reminded me that there are still good people in this world. And sometimes those people need a little push to reach their full potential. Her chest tightened at his words. For so long, she had felt unseen, her efforts unappreciated. But now, standing here, she realized that her simple act of kindness had unlocked a future she'd never dared to dream of. Ellie's life had indeed transformed, but it wasn't just about the garage or the money. It was about the sense of purpose she'd found. Logan had opened a door she didn't even know existed, and every day brought new opportunities that seemed almost too good to be true. Yet it still felt incomplete. Weeks passed, and Logan remained a regular presence. Sometimes he'd swing by to check on her progress, sometimes just to talk. Their conversations ranged from business strategies to childhood memories, and Ellie found herself looking forward to his visits more than she cared to admit. One evening, as she was finishing up some paperwork in the newly renovated office, Logan appeared in the doorway. His usual confident demeanor was tinged with something softer, almost hesitant. "Busy?" he asked, leaning against the frame. Ellie looked up and smiled. "Just wrapping up." "What's up?" He stepped inside, holding a small, neatly wrapped package. "I wanted to give you this." She raised an eyebrow, accepting the package. "What is it?" "Open it and find out," he said with a playful smirk. Ellie carefully unwrapped the paper to reveal a sleek, leather-bound journal. On the cover, in gold lettering, were the words, "Ellie's Big Ideas." "It's beautiful," she said, running her fingers over the smooth leather. "But why?" Logan sat down across from her, his gaze steady. "Because I see how much potential you have, Ellie. Not just with cars or running a garage, but with people. You have a way of inspiring trust, of making people believe in themselves. I think you could do more, dream bigger." Ellie's throat tightened. She opened the journal and found the first page already filled with Logan's handwriting. "Dreams are like engines, they need care, attention, and the right fuel to run. Never stop building, fixing, and dreaming." She blinked back tears and looked up at him. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll keep pushing forward," Logan said, his voice firm but kind. "The garage is just the beginning." Ellie nodded, a small smile breaking through her emotions. "I will. Thank you, Logan, for everything." He leaned back in his chair, a rare softness in his expression. "You don't have to thank me. You earned this." Months turned into a year, and Ellie's garage became the talk of the town. She hired staff, expanded her services, and even started hosting workshops to teach young women about car repair. She found herself on local news stations and in articles celebrating her journey from small-town mechanic to community leader. Logan remained a steady presence, though his visits became less about business and more about friendship, and something else neither of them dared to name. It wasn't until the night of the grand opening of her second location that everything came full circle. Ellie stood on a stage, thanking the crowd for their support, when her gaze found Logan's in the back of the room. Later, as the event wound down and the last of the guests left, Logan approached her. "You've come a long way," he said, his hands in his pockets. Ellie chuckled, her eyes sparkling. "I couldn't have done it without you." He shook his head. "No, Ellie, you could have. You just needed someone to remind you how capable you are." She stepped closer, her voice softer now. "Well, consider me reminded. But if I'm being honest," she hesitated, then took a deep breath. "It's not just the garage or the success that's made this year so incredible. It's having you in my corner." Logan's smile widened, and for the first time, his confidence faltered just slightly. "Ellie, you've been in my corner from the moment you stopped on that road. I think," he paused, gathering his thoughts, "I think we make a pretty good team." Ellie's heart raced, but she grinned, her voice light and teasing. "You're just realizing that now?" Logan laughed, the sound warm and genuine. "Better late than never." As they stood there, the weight of the past year between them, Ellie realized something. Her life had changed not because of a single act of kindness, but because of what came after. The courage to embrace the unknown, to trust, and to dream bigger than she ever thought possible. And in that moment, as Logan took her hand, she knew that this was just the beginning of something even greater.